of the things I wondered is if it's possible to use a chain stitch with a Zigzagger on the 400 series machines. Just possible. Definitely tough. The widest zigzag, it becomes quite unreliable and starts dropping stitches. Really randomly. So sometimes you get, oops, sorry, the sun's blind. You get perfect, and all of a sudden then it'll drop, and so I've tried adjusting all sorts of stuff. Work in progress. But on a lesser zigzag, it works. So this is a multi-point zigzag, so you can use it decoratively. You can get good results. There is one part I want to try as well, which seems a little random, but there's another feature of this machine which I thought might be fun to see what happens. There may be a use for it. However, if you want to make these chain stitches permanent, you can actually leave the bobbin in with a standard weight thread, and there's a red thread running through there. It makes the stitches loopier, but it does work. I thought maybe you could use decorative thread in there. Now I tried thicker thread, but then it started, there's not enough space in the machine to pull the thread. She starts getting a bit of a mess with thicker thread. So it's possible. It does change the quality of the loops no matter how much you tighten it, because there's not a lot of space in there. I'm going to try this on my Kenmore as well to see if you can use the Zigzagger with that and get good results. But at the very least you can get a slightly decorative chain stitch. There is a definite limit to how far you can go before you start getting odd results. But I thought you might find that interesting. Here's something fun and random for you. Using a slant shank Zigzagger on a zigzag machine. Now why would I do this? Well, for most things there's probably no value. However, there's a peculiarity of this Zigzagger, the American one, with the multi-point zigzag. So that's that particular pattern cam. And the reason it's interesting is because it's very, very wide. Way wider than this machine. It's wider than 5. It's really wide. So there's the maximum. If you look at a zigzag on this machine, one of those zigzags is the widest this will do. But what you'll notice is how much bigger this is. So you can get really wide patterns combining the two zigzags. So here we've got a small width on the Zigzagger with a small width, a 3, on the machine, and you get this, which is very similar to one of the patterns you can get from the machine itself, the mountain. If I then go to increase it to maximum width with the same width on the machine of 3, so that would be here, okay, then, so you see the 3, then that's the 3, and then I just keep increasing the width of the machine. Now if I go then start playing with the zigzag of the machine, you start getting alternatives, so you can reduce the width. Here I've increased it, but also increased the stitch length, and that just gives you a really big mountain. But then you can decrease the stitch length and increase the stitch width to maximum. So this is sort of maximum, but with a reasonable stitch width, and you get this sort of decorative pattern, which is fun. Then I started reducing the stitch width, and then you can sort of get this double stitch thing, which is interesting but not wild. At maximum on both, you get, with the stitch width adjusted, you get that really thick, interesting decorative stitch. So I'll show you how this looks. At 3, stitch length just above 20, BK, and I haven't played with every stitch pattern to see what alternatives I can get with this, but if I go to 3, see it goes there. And that's on the maximum stitch width of the attachment. You get that. Let's just spin that around. So that's kind of nice, big mountains. If I then go the next step, then you get some really big mountains. And you can of course adjust the stitch length as you want. You have to make sure you hold the fabric taut so you don't drop any stitches. And you get that, and so you fill up that whole space, which is really wide compared to the feed dogs. So if I go here, you can see the whole of the feed dogs is much, I can get in under there, much smaller than the whole width I'm getting. So you get really, really much wider stitch patterns using the combination of the two. Now, if I were to play with this a bit more, BR5, that might produce something kind of interesting. Don't know what, but let's try. So this is BR5 on this machine. So it's set to the widest on the Zigzag, BR5, and then what you're going to get is a very different sort of randomized pattern. But that's it. There may be like some really good ones. You get sort of that, which is similar to other stitches on the machine, but again wider than you might get on the machine alone. So there is mileage in that. I'm not the most I don't know every in and out of this machine to figure, or the combination of patterns to achieve something. So maybe even an IP2, IP2. No idea what this is going to do, but we'll find out in a second together. It gives closest to a multi-point zigzag, and that's about as exciting as it gets, really. It's not particularly changes the look of it. All the things that you can get in it. It just gives a strange looking multi-point zigzag. So that one's less interesting. Let's just try another one. HL. Let's go for HL2. That could be interesting. There's the L. Go to the H. J, I, H. Okay. Let's try this one. That one is quite random, so it's very interesting indeed. Want some really mountainous, giant mountains. So you could do giant mountains with that one. That's kind of fun. But you see, just sometimes you have to play to see what you get. But you can see how wide that is. I mean, that's really wide. So that's kind of fun with those kind of mountains. You could do something with that for sure. But it's a matter of playing. Definitely that's lovely. A lot of these are really lovely and really wide. So you could make a beautiful, you could stitch ribbon underneath them as well. It'd be quite fun to do. I hope you found that interesting.